In this video net interview at IBC 2012, I'm speaking with Mike Short, who's VP for Public Policy in Europe for Telefonica. Hello, Mike.
Good morning.
Hi. Now, we heard at the IBC conference yesterday a very interesting analysis of what might happen if Apple TV come into the market, and the speaker was saying that it's not really the devices, that's a sideshow for them. It's about getting a ubiquitous OS across as many screens as possible. Now, from the mobile world, you saw this happen years ago, and it kind of, in a way, looked like it diminished your relationship with customers. You still had the billing and the network, but you no longer owned the user experience. I mean, do you think we might see the same thing in television?
Well, the mobile world and innovation continues at a pace. We're expecting something like 1.7 billion devices being shipped this year. So to get a common user experience on devices is very difficult, particularly across so many models and across that volume. However, what I would say is that the launch of the Apple smartphone, which was in June 2007, just over 5 years ago, gave us some real lessons. It showed how innovation could make a difference. It showed how content could be so much more accessible. And frankly, ever since then, devices have been as important as networks. And therefore, it's quite important to track how customer equipment, whether it be TVs or devices, evolve. And very important to acknowledge you can't always influence what is on those devices.
I mean, the mobile industry doesn't seem to have been too hurt anyway, because data's been a great thing for you. I mean, but now that you've got them on nice monthly data plans, I mean, how do you get more money from people, and what's the next step for you as an industry?
So clearly a mobile operator does lots of things. It doesn't just run a network. It delivers lots of content, whether it's voice or data-based content, if you like. But in terms of that, the customer care aspects become very important. A customer is quite different from a viewer. Also, some of the billing and pricing mechanisms are quite important. So thinking about how do we bill the customer and it be appropriate billing is important. That in turn means that we have some wholesale options to actually make sure that the customer can pay for content which has been wholesaled to us by a major content provider. So those billing mechanisms are also very important. And last but not least, we certainly see a growing interest in what I'd call data analytics. So the ability to take data from our network, our Telefonica network, and then see if some appropriate mobile marketing or appropriate targeted advertising can apply. And we're seeing more and more interest in those sort of relationships between TV companies and telecoms companies.
Yes, because we're hearing a lot about big data, and obviously multiscreen is the future. So you've got a role there, not just in terms of delivering the content, but actually helping them to find the right person at the right time?
Sure. Mobile operators have done segmentation by geography, by income, by different classifications for many, many years. Because we have that ongoing billing relationship, we have a lot of information. If we aggregate that data, it helps some of the marketing companies and the content companies find those customers more quickly.
Okay, and obviously in this sort of multi-screen world, we're hearing a lot about second screen now and companion apps and that kind of thing. Now, we know that Shazam, for example, they're very focused on even just a mobile phone as opposed to a tablet. So is there any kind of play for a mobile network operator in that world? I mean, again, it looks like it's the apps provider and the TV content provider who really dominate the experience, but can you sort of find a role there?
As operators, we do a lot to support that experience, whatever the experience is. Some of the things that we do in innovation are quite important. For example, in London this year, we opened a new incubator called Wyra, and that had over 1,000 applications from the digital space to look at digital applications for every sector, not just content and film, but also in areas like e-commerce or m-commerce, healthcare, ticketing, things like that. So facilitating incubation and innovation, I think, is a key aspect we offer. In addition to that, putting in place some of those billing and customer care mechanisms apply just as equally to content. If you've paid for the content and it doesn't get delivered, we have to help that out. Similarly, we might want to encourage sharing of content, which might be more in terms of how do you build a community. That's where things like data analytics can play a big part. Building a community in relation to a brand or content becomes much more important.
Okay, and we've heard a lot about building brands beyond the TV screen, and that's a big theme for the it seems, the marketers now. I mean, in terms of taking people off the television screen onto that smaller screen, I mean, will we see more transactions and actual couponing and things like that actually on the telephone, or is it really about just kind of, you know, brand engagement?
I think brand engagement is key, but content players would like their content to be paid for. So telecoms operators have better billing mechanisms than internet players for getting content to be paid for, either by type of content or on a subscription basis. In addition to that, only this week we've had, within the UK, clearance from the European Union that Telefonica in the UK can collaborate with Vodafone and Everything Everywhere on things like near-field communications and mobile advertising. Now, collaboration together starts to mean that you're not having to deal with different operators. You can look at a consistent delivery mechanism, a consistent payment mechanism. So there are other things that are emerging in that payment space as well.
Okay, and just finally, I mean, what is, if anything, keeping you awake at night right now?
The biggest thing that keeps us awake at night is keeping the customers happy in terms of all the things they want. There is so much more diversity now that we're in this visual age. It's no longer voice communications, it's much more visual. How do you handle the range of innovations that customers want? At least we offer 24/7 customer care, so at least we can support them where we can. Plans for next generation networks such as 4G networks are also well in place, but the reality is it's the innovation curve to support all our customers.
Okay, all right. Well, Mike, thanks very much for giving us your time again, and lovely speaking to you.